Hey there, my name is Sean from the Digital Organizer, and I wanted to show you the process that I go through for using ChatGPT to help me write. I use this for a number of different tools, but I'm using this for a specific newsletter. And I recently had a chat with one of my employees, Scotty, talking about AI and ownership. He's a musician, and so thinking about AI in the music space and in the creative world in general is something that has brought up some really stimulating conversations and some scary and some things that we don't love about the future of what our world looks like with the use of AI and intellectual property and creativity and what that means. And Scotty and I still haven't come to complete agreement on what that means for each of us. And I think all of us, what you watching this probably feel something different than I do. Maybe in some ways we resonate, or you think that even what I talk about is ridiculous, or that I'm even making this, and some just hate it altogether. And maybe you're going to unsubscribe from my newsletter or something because of this, or unfollow. But I thought it was important to share what I do and my thought process behind this and be transparent with those of you who really do want to know, are you using AI? Is this genuine content? Can I trust that I'm reading something from an actual human, that I'm being communicated to from a human? And so I wanted to show you my process because I do write all of this stuff, but I do like to use ChatGPT to help me create more clarity. So, my brain is like those of a lot of people who come to us. I've got a ton of ideas. I'm always wanting to work on the next thing. So we work with a lot of founders, a lot of solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, and we've got a ton of ideas. And slowing down or having a specific framework of thinking about how you're going to write something or communicate it or get this idea out can be really difficult. And so I find myself writing a newsletter or some sort of blog post or something, and halfway through I realize I've just written about 3 different topics in one. And so I'm making connections to a ton of different ideas and principles and things that I want to share with you. But I can't do it all in one email. Like, nobody's got the time to read all this or go in all the different directions. And so getting that clarity and bringing focus to one topic at a time and speaking clearly to that has been a challenge. It always has. And I've been super grateful to be able to take a newsletter that starts with 3 different topics and be able to bring it into ChatGPT and say, help me create clarity around this and break it up into different emails. And it gives me something that I'm totally not satisfied with, but it helps create just a small block that I can work with. And it's like, okay, this is what I'm trying to get at. You got it totally wrong. Let me put back in more of what I was thinking to clarify it, and it gives me something better that I can say, okay, yes, that's what I'm getting to. Let me rewrite that in my own words and in my own framework, and it gives me a much better starting place that I can work with rather than a big jumbled mess of the original thing that I started with. So sometimes it's just like we need to work on a different problem in order to get clarity around something or separate it out. And that's what this tool has helped me do. And in other ways, I've got a clear topic. I just want to make it better and rewrite it. How can I do that? And so I throw it into ChatGPT to see. And so what I want you to see is me starting with what I might have actually just hit post on, and then putting it into ChatGPT, what that prompt looks like to be able to get something different, then the rewrite process, and then experimentation of, well, what if we took it in a different direction? And so I would love to hear what your thoughts are in the comments about the whole thing, about AI, about this process, as to whether or not you think that the original was good enough to post, or you like that one better, or I should have taken this other suggestion. I'd be really curious to see what you think about it. But either way, I wanted to kind of open up or show behind the curtain of what it looks like to create the content that you're reading. And this isn't always the process. Sometimes it's just all me. But I always go through the process of, okay, here's what you gave me, and then here's my version of it. So here we go. All right. So what I started with is this idea of organization is a mind game. And this is actually already edited. So I spent a bunch of time to get it to this point. So if you want to pause and read this, please feel free. For brevity, I'm not going to read the whole thing. So you can see I've got what I think is an actual blog or newsletter ready to go, potentially. And then here's the ChatGPT prompt. So I said, here's another newsletter I'd like to send. Before I do, I'd like your input on how I could make it better. The goal is to inspire people to get traction on their organization goals and provide a resource that they can use in other situations as well. Things that my clients tell me is that disorganization causes them anxiety and that they feel that they should be able to do this, but they haven't been able to make progress on this. I'm thinking I might want to make this into a series if it gains traction. I think I need a hook, the story, and close that calls them to action. The action they can take is, if they want to get help with their digital workspace, start with our How Organized Are You assessment. After going through it, they can book a discovery call with me. So I'm trying to give it all of the context and more of the heart behind it. So, and then I pasted in the email that I wrote. And so this is what came back. And it's close to what you're going to read. So hook, that sinking feeling, recall, blah, 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 magnify that feeling, etc. This is actually after a number of rewrites of that prompt. So this is close to what I came, and I want to cite this. And so what I'm using is a template that I created in Google Docs. And so I like to be able to see this. And then here's my rewrite. So I'm still cutting out more of the process that I'm going to show you in a minute. And so then here's my version of the end. And so I write it out in here, and then this gets copied and put into my current email marketing system, which is called ConvertKit. I feel like it really did a pretty good job getting close to what I wanted after a few additional inputs. So here you can see the history. I mean, it's quite extensive of how long I use this to get where I wanted to go. So here's that prompt. And then, it tries to affirm me and gives this version. And I didn't like it. So I said, I feel like the story section works well, or I don't feel like the story section works well. It's important to that the reader imagines the situation we're presenting. They need to easily be able to insert themselves in the situation. If you're not using questions, or we want to use questions to recall the experience, you can pause this and read it. But the idea is, make this more visual. Let's use less words, and let's create a question that allows the reader to recall something in and of themselves. So here we go. The practice is so much more powerful than writing words when we have the reader's brain do the job of filling in the story to prove our point. So this is some feedback that I got when I'm doing podcasts and other things. Is people would tell me, you said the same thing 3 times, which I actually trained myself to do that, because when training people, especially at the Apple Store, you have to tell them something, and then you tell them what you told them, and then tell them what you told them again to help them recall that information. But now we want to hear the problem, and we want to know the solution right away. And the best way to do that is to have the person listening think about a situation in their own lives that illustrates the point. And then we can speed up the process so much faster and really get to the point. So I can use less words so you can read this email faster. So that's the idea. And then we got in, and you can pause this at any point to read this if you're curious. And we got to the spot that I was like, this is pretty good, but it turned it into a sales email. And I would think probably an effective one. I mean, you'll have to tell me because you're the one reading it. But it missed the point of, I want this to be useful beyond just a sales email. I want you as a reader to be able to take this tool of magnifying pain and thinking about the worst case scenario. If you don't change something in your life, whether it's health, your relationship, or digital organization, whatever it is, if you don't make that change, what happens? It's a really powerful tool that we can use to gain traction that we couldn't normally get. So thank you. I say much better. And then I sat on it for the afternoon. I've been thinking about this. We're not quite there. I love where you went with this, but it's missing X. I want this to be applicable, to anything that they can do. So can you find a path between the two? Of course, here we go. This is a really good email too. I mean, you might want to stop and just read this because I thought it was great. You can pause here. All right, let's go to the next section. You can pause again. Next section. Pretty good email. I like that. What can you do to blend it together? It just rewrote it. It didn't do what I wanted. All right, I want it even closer, but here's something more along the heart of it. It did it again. Feel free to pause. Actually, what I did is I just stopped it. I'm like, you're wrong. So I went through the first email, or the first one that I thought was actually pretty good, and then I rewrote it and asked it to make some suggestions, because this one, these sections right here that I rewrote, I still didn't like it. They were too wordy. All right, rewrite it again for me, especially those particular sections. Rewrite those for me. It spits out something else. I'm like, you know what? No. Let me just redo it again. So then I stopped. I went back to this that I really liked, and then I went through and rewrote it to my satisfaction, to the point that really gets to that inner drive that we sometimes need to gain traction, all of that. And so that this is back to me. So would I call this mine? Would I copyright this and put my name on it? Like, this is my thing and these are my words, even though ChatGPT wrote it for me? No, it's like, this isn't something that I would copyright or anything along those lines, because you saw I took some serious help from this. But do I feel really good about using it to create a newsletter that's worthwhile to read, that I would want to subscribe to if I was the target for this? And actually, a lot of times I actually am. I had to use this this method for myself, for my own health, because my posture sucks. I've got tech neck, with my head's going forward from working on the computer all the time. I've got posture issues and I need help, and I haven't gained the traction for it. And so sometimes I'm writing this for me in addition to you, because I have things that I don't want to do that I have a hard time gaining traction with. And so I do think this is very worthwhile, and you don't read this stuff unless I get this help, because I have a hard time getting something all the way to the finish line or really being satisfied. Hence all of the rewrites that I didn't even end up going with, but I did spend a good chunk of time rewriting, especially the second half of the email. But these were my words, like the whole viewpoint of really what I was getting across. It just helped me get it there. It's, I think it's been incredibly helpful, because I don't have the budget to have someone write all of this stuff for me. So I hope this explains the process that you can, maybe if you're using ChatGPT, that you can help, or I guess get some inspiration from the prompts and realize how much you can have a conversation with this tool to really get the heart of what you're looking for. And then also realize that sometimes it just sucks at really getting you, but it can help clarify what you're trying to say and then rewrite. And I found that I have become a much better writer because of this. And as I think about the framework and the model that I'm really looking for, and what I need to make a more effective visualization or something, to use fewer words to communicate. So pretty long video, but I hope this is helpful. And let me know what you think. Thanks.